Wait, are we live?
Yeah, now we're live.
Every time.
Oh my god, ladies and gentlemen, welcome on back to the booth. Don't mind the headless figure on the left-hand side. Valentine is not joining us today. They are in Hell 3. So bonus points to you if you can guess which state in the United States is Hell 3. If you know the answer, don't shout it out. That's just cheating. And if you shout out one of the other four, we have named 4 different hell states. So if you name one of the other ones, then you get partial credit. By the way, nobody gets anything for anything, so don't worry about it. All right, guys. So we are going to go ahead and kick on through this episode. Ohio is the lowest hell. Actually, Ohio is not hell in Valentine's own words. Ohio is something much stranger and worse, like Ohio. So Ohio is just Ohio. New Jersey is hell number 4. Florida is hell number 2, I think. So New York is not listed on the hells. Naming New York is kind of crazy. I don't know.
You're
Man.
wild for that.
New York is crazy to name it. Blow up.
Said I was kidding.
Ohio is just a toll road. That's pretty bold considering New Jersey exists. New Jersey is just the New Jersey Turnpike, and sometimes you go on the Garden State Parkway and you like absolutely none of it. Texas is hell number 1. Ruffian says hell number 1 is Jack's Arms. I don't know what to tell you about that. California was not listed. You guys are getting farther away with California. All right. So we are going to, Valentine notwithstanding, run on through all of the standings, and then we're going to introduce to you guys our latest and greatest segment, Hot Takes Over Hotcakes, and we are very excited to debut that for you guys. And so, since we are super excited to debut that for you guys, let's get on through these standings. But before I do that, Less Force, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm glad that my head is still on my shoulders, that I'm able to talk, pour one out for Val. Hopefully we're able to sew that back on in the future. But
Yep.
but no, other than that, been doing good. Got a big date with you tonight.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that. It's going to be really cute. I guarantee you're going to be three-waying me in the bot lane, but hey, it is what it is. Vega, how are you doing today?
I'm doing much better after that mental image.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, it's 3-day weekend. This is great. Usually I round out like the end of my weekend with this, but now I got an extra day. That means I can drink more wine tonight and relax because Milk does not have a game tonight, so I can relax, stress-free, play some games, hang out with 2 of my favorite people while I miss Val deeply. I'm glad that the 3 of us do have our heads intact for today's episode.
As do I. And yeah, Mew Life, I will be purchasing extra strength duct tape. And we're going to use duct tape, super glue, epoxy, sewing needles, whatever it takes in order to get Valentine's head back on. That's what we're going to do. And this would be the place in the show where I ask Valentine how they're doing, but like I said, they're headless, so we're just going to move right on over to the standings. And then we can talk about economy group A, B, and then commercial group A, B, C, financial group A, B, C, D, and executive groups A and B. And then we'll move on over to our latest and greatest segment, Hot Takes Over Hot Cakes. But taking a look at these economy standings, talk to me. What is happening in these groups? In economy, in economy group A, we were paying attention to the high alert and to the sperm whales, just to try to see what's going on with that. So talk to me a little bit about these standings and what they might mean. What does it all mean? What is the meaning of life?
I think the first thing you got to talk about is NGO. They took an L.
They took an
2-0 to Fifth Spectrum. And looking at those games, Snowflake Gecko decided to put on their carry pants, 16, 2-9 on the Vex. Not as quite a dominating performance second game, but they still played really well. And it looks like game 2 is a little closer, but coming into the last week, everyone was saying NGO unstoppable, but kind of ran into their first roadblock this week.
Yeah, it really looks that way.
I think now, we talked a little bit about last week where it looked like NGO was kind of like in control of the group and looked to be like that front runner. Now, it's a bit of a mess because now, Sperm Whales, Fifth Spectrum's in that mix. You have a couple teams that one loss up there at the top. I know one game that's not reported yet on the standings here, which is High Alert did beat Soy Milk. So High Alert is at 2-2, so still technically in that mix as well. But yeah, now this group's more wide open, right? Because I think if you're a team that was watching NGO before, you're like, how do we figure out a way of beating this team? Now there is a little bit of a blueprint. People have seen like, hey, it's possible to win. You get a little bit more confidence coming into those matches now. And for Fifth Spectrum, that is awesome. That is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. So Fifth Spectrum really coming in hot there. That was our economy match of the week for week 4. So I'm pretty excited for that. Yeah, absolutely. Like when you have a team that's super dominant, like the Outlaws were prior to this match, everybody's trying to figure out what is happening there, like what's going on, how do we beat this team? And now Fifth Spectrum, like you said, has sort of set the standard for like what it looks like to actually take games off of this top team. Les Force, go ahead and tell me a little bit about that before I turn it back to Vega to sort of keep processing Economy Group A.
Yeah, well, so wait, sorry. Ruffian going in the chat. I didn't want to expose him like that, but he's the one that, he asked the question, how do things get missed?
Yep.
We're pretty confident that Ruffian saw the milk emote on the High Alert Soy Milk series and saw the green and maybe just like didn't process that it wasn't a check mark. Not to put him on the blast there. Sammy saying that NGO's gonna be back in shape for week 5. Certainly. I mean, again, one loss series, not the end of the world. You do have Soy Milk next week, who they had a really really fun series from what I could see against High Alert Legion. Wasn't that like a 54-minute game or something like that, Vega? And it like
game 1.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then even like game 2 looked like it was gonna go Soy Milk's way. Really big bounce back for those guys. Actually, I know we were kind of talking about like NGO and Fifth Spectrum, but the Legion came into the season as like the favorite, quote unquote, to win the group. Started out strong, took a couple losses, but they bounced back in a pretty big way, last week. And so I'm curious if they're gonna be able to keep the momentum up against Tactical Feed.
Yeah, and like when you come in as the group favorite and you take a couple of losses and like you sort of like stumble at the beginning, then it can be a little bit harder to sort of refine that momentum. Like it's sort of like the suffering from success kind of situation. If you're not used to losing, it can be difficult to figure out how do you win at losing? Like how do you lose games in a way that's productive? How do you find your footing back again? So it does seem like High Alert Legion has some labbing to do in order to come on back up here and to the standings and to climb their way back up. Right now, they are keeping it. They're staying in that playoff spot. But we do have a couple of teams only with 2 matches, Vega. And so we'll figure out exactly what's going on with that. But Vega,
I think we have 2 next week.
I saw your hand. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on Economy Group A.
Les Force kind of touched on it. I was gonna pose it. Sammy commented on it in chat also, which is how does NGO look the week after? I think a lot of teams, when you have like a really concise idea of how to play the game and what works for you, sometimes getting punched in the mouth can be a good thing, and sometimes it can be a negative thing. Because sometimes it puts you too much back to the drawing board on like, hey, you were a 3-0 team. Obviously, what you were doing was working. But when a team comes in and 2-0s you, a lot of times, you get that, do we need to change what we're doing? Do we need to adjust like our approach to the game? So I do think they'll be fine. I think Sammy's, kind of a stalwart, member there who's been through several seasons, different iterations of the roster, and they've been successful. So I think they do have the pieces around them to kind of rally back and be like, hey, losses happen in the regular season. Sometimes you just get surprised by a team. But I'll be interested to see what they look like next week.
Yeah, and in your guys' own experience, when a team has some of those veteran members and they start to take that stumble, what are we really looking for out of those team members in order to keep maybe the rookies, the new recruits, going a little bit more and starting to bounce back from those difficulties?
I think most of all, it's just kind of framing losses and wins. Right, you never want to get too high on your highs, too low on your lows. Right, you're still always like back to basics. And I think players that have played a lot of seasons kind of get that one regular season loss is not the end of the world. If anything, sometimes it's better to have it exposed in the season than it is, come playoff time. Right, to have a team kind of test you and be like, okay, like we didn't realize we had that weakness. We didn't realize we didn't know how to play that. So now our practice can be more focused and things like that. And having members that don't, have played a long time or senior members, they don't get as high and low on losses. Like winning a regular season game, they're not going to be like, we're the best team. Or losing a regular season game, they're not going to be like, we're the worst team. Whereas, like, rookie players sometimes may be like, oh my gosh, I was on stream. I played like crap. Am I playing wrong? Should I be playing? So I think, players like Sammy and other veteran players that have on that team will hopefully center that back for them. And, that's always a huge boon to have on teams.
Yeah, and Les Force, what are some of your thoughts on, what the role of a veteran player is on a roster that's starting to stumble a little bit and how they can help that team bounce back?
Yeah, I mean, like I think Vega just put it really, really beautifully as a coach, right? I mean, you just kind of have to, and it's hard, right? Like I hate losing, but sometimes you just have to, try and recollect the team. You lose one game, especially in like a best of 3 series. You really can't afford to like mental boom after game 1 because then you're just going in a rough spot in game 2. So if you're like the veteran who's played in dozens of these series before, you just have to try and find a way to like rope people in. Maybe try and lighten the mood. Depends on your team. Jokes may not work very well depending on your team environment. But like whatever's gonna work for your team, you just kind of have to try to like take it one game at a time. And if you lose the series, go back. Like don't talk about it immediately after the fact. That at least in my experience has never been productive to immediately talk about a loss. Give some time, give it a day, come back with some fresh thoughts. At least that'd be my advice. And that's Blanco's actually saying that that's exactly what they've been doing.
Yep.
And it culminated this week with with a 2-1 bounce back.
Yeah. The 2-1, and that was the game where they like lost like the 54-minute game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and bouncing back from a game like that, I think that really does a lot to show how much sort of mental fortitude that team has. It's like, okay,
That
guys,
is
that was
hard.
really close. Like it was a brutal 54-minute game. We took that loss. How do we bounce back? And they figured it out. They had the recipe.
Yeah, and I think also in that series, it was 54-minute loss into game 2 starting very rough. And to have the mental fortitude, and also that's something that can carry you throughout a season, right? Because then you go back and you say, hey, we won a series where we were almost in the worst possible situation you could be in. We lose an incredibly stressful game. We start the second game poorly, but then you earn that trust with each other of like, hey, if we stick together, we keep playing positive, we can come back from any situation.
Yep.
And then hopefully, that springboards you.
Yep. Well, it sounds like Economy Group A has a lot of good, fun stuff going on here. So I'm going to go ahead and move us on over to Economy Group B to keep this timer ticking. And taking a look at the standings, we've got, well, technically 3 undefeated teams, but one of them has only played 1 match as of, or at least as the standings suggest. But 2% Milk kind of taken the group by storm. So Vega, can you tell us a little bit about what the secret ingredient for 2% Milk is? I have a feeling it's 2% milk, but maybe there's something else. Maybe it's full fat milk. I don't know. What's going on here?
I don't know. They're our crowning jewel right now at Milk Esports, our only undefeated team. But no, they just. I think a lot of the carryover from last season. There's 3 members from last year's Scud team, and you can very clearly tell in their gameplay. A lot of times, the laning is good, but when they get to team play, they're coordinated, right? You see that core working together, and I thought this past week was probably the biggest test for them because they ended up having to play with some subs. Vader was out last week traveling to the Grand Canyon, as people saw pictures in the Discord. But yeah, I think really it's just team play. They're a team that's played together a long time. Their 2 new members are kind of, hands members also. Jungler and AD carry, very good hands players, which is almost exactly what that team needed. Is they have a great core of shot calling. Now they have some hands players that can really go, execute on those, team plays they make. And I know so far, and we'll talk probably more about Milk later. But right now, I mean, they look great. It's hard to complain about a team that's 6-0.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that like when you start to see these teams do really well, especially like going into the early season, and this will sort of transition us into talking a little bit more about Doggy Bone Goblin Zone, since Ruffian decided to ask how the admin teams are doing. It seems like we've got another undefeated team in this group. I think it really sort of shows, and having the combination of hands players plus brain players, it's great. And when you get those in a package of like you got a hands player who is a brain player, I think that's awesome. And then you got people like me, where just a glue guy, I guess. So
Locker room guy.
yeah,
Locker room
I'm the real locker room guy. I come in there, I blare Mo Bamba, I say, all right, guys,
Get everybody water.
Yep, get everybody some water. Okay, guys, stay hydrated. Check runes, check summoners. I say check masteries still because I'm old as fuck. So it's just it's real rough out here
Get your
when
runes
you've
and
got
masters.
nothing to add.
I've got my GP10 quintessences.
Yeah. Anyway, so taking a look at Dakibone Goblin Zone, who is another one of these undefeated teams, although has one fewer series played, what's going on here, right? Like, this is, first of
Hold
all,
on.
dope ass name.
Someone just pointed out every series in this group is a 2-0.
Oh wow,
And it is.
That's true.
Every series is a 2-0.
Holy shit.
Yeah. I think what's really interesting about the Doggy Bone team is that they've been. I mean, granted, we're only talking about 2 series, right? But they're doing as well as they have been. With I think Buggle said they've played like 8 or 9 different people, so it's like there is no continuity. Like they have been just shuffling players through, kind of locking in those subs, doing those things that we all love to see, and their players are popping off. I mean, you look at thank you to Ruffian, by the way, who now we actually have the stats and can look at how these players have been doing. Vivisal has played in all of those games. Pretty dominant stat line: 41, 13, 41 on 80 carry, nearly 8 CS a minute, over 1,000 damage a minute.
Holy.
Like this dude's popping off for their
Holy
team.
moly.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, just look at the standings, and it is just all there's so many Doggy Bone players up near the top. TRC2, I think both those players were like pickups from. I want to say Optimal Esports last season. They played in Econ, and then Buggle poached them. I think that's what happened. But like clearly, it's working out for the team. They're really popping off. Early start to the season, so we'll see once Econ B is able to catch up on their games a little bit. Parenthesis player games.
Yep.
We'll see if they're able to hold up, but so far it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, and finding those, it sounds like it's a little bit similar to the 2% Milk story of having like these brains players and then finding some of these hands players who can really sort of come in and thank you to Mew Life and Referee Todd. It was the OE Horizons roster, I believe, that we were talking about there. And CT MA5 ON, whatever that means. All of that sort of being said, like, what are we sort of thinking about here when we're thinking about the rest of this group? Like, what can even happen? You know, we're seeing a bunch of these 2-0s, a bunch of, like, this is the antithesis of a soup group, right? Like, we've got teams at the top and teams at the bottom. So what needs to happen in order for this group to get shaken up? Go ahead, Vega.
The next 2 weeks, really. I mean, you have a lot of the top 4 teams playing each other over the next 2 weeks, and I think that's really going to give us the grasp of this group, right? Doggy Bone Goblin Zone's, undefeated. I think Kick and Squids we've all thought was a very strong team right now. Two Towns only played 1 series, but they've won it, so we don't really have the best read yet. But hey, the best way to start is 1-0. So, but you have a lot of those teams, and I think Body Break also is sneakily like a pretty good team. So you have a lot of these teams that are going to be playing each other over the next 2 weeks, which is going to be really spicy. I think. And I think a lot of what we'll know. And as Mew pointed out, we do have Doggy Bone Goblin Zone versus 2% in week 7. So I guess really the next 3 weeks. But I think 2% is probably going to have the most learning. I think so far they've played, of the teams they've played, are 1-6 in match score. So I think that they're a team who has a lot, even though they're 3-0, there's still a lot to prove in game score because of the teams that are, currently undefeated in the group. They haven't played them yet. So that will be pretty spicy to see.
Okay, and Les Force, what are some of your thoughts on what needs to happen in order for this group to get shaken up?
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of going back to what we were saying, but like a lot of teams haven't gotten a ton of games in, like Two Town Gaming. I know, I remember they made a ticket, so like it wasn't all on them, but like they're working to like catch up in the standings, and like let's say they 3-0 in the next 2 weeks, they make up a game, and all of a sudden they're like dominating Econ B or Body Break, OE Vanguard, Rat Squires, like. These teams that only have 2 series, like that's still not enough to really get a sense of like yes, as of right now, you've got your top tier, your bottom tier, but there's still plenty of game left to play. So Two Town in chat are saying that they played today, and then I guess they play against 2% sometime this week. So
Battle of the Twos,
they are
the terrible twos.
Battle of the Twos. So I'm just looking forward to seeing like what happens as these matchups start to get caught back up a little bit, because I think that'll really tell us like, are 2% the Kings of Econ B? Is an admin team actually going to go into playoffs as the favorite? I mean, that's probably not. But just curious to see where, like, especially on the like 4 to 6 mark, like where those teams shake up.
Mm-hmm. And that sort of takes us nice and cleanly into revealing our economy week 5 match of the week, which is Kickin' Squids versus Doggy Bone Goblin Zone. Can Doggy Bone Goblin Zone keep their undefeated title, or will the Kickin' Squids start to bring us some extra added heat to this group? And will we see our first 3-game series as we start to see these teams sort of on the same top versus bottom half of the bracket start to face each other off? So that will round us out for discussing economy as we bump it on over to commercial. So let's take a look at commercial group A here, where we've got some interesting stuff. Also another league where the Group A had our Week 4 match of the week, which was Serenity Bad Boys Club versus the TV Rat Lords, which was another 2-0 in favor of the Bad Boys Club. So they are sort of taking sole possession of top place. Yeah, that's how you say it. Sole possession
Good
of
job.
first place.
Good job.
There we go. That's all the words. With a 100% win rate. Talk to me a little bit about this group. It looks like we've got more games played than we have seen in other groups, and that it looks like we didn't do a great job on predictions. So talk to
Tried
me a
our
little bit
best.
about this group. We
We're
did
doing
our
our
best.
best.
We'll vibe into it.
You go ahead, Les.
I'll just talk. I mean, because obviously, TV Rat Lords, I have a little bit of inside scoop on. I think that was a very needed punch in the teeth, for lack of a better way to phrase it. I think those players were getting a little, and you know, there's always that fine line where like you want to be confident in your team, you want to be confident in yourself, but you don't want to get cocky. And I think the Rat Lords were getting a little trending towards that cocky line. You know, it's not that they were saying Bad Boys Club aren't good, but they were just saying like, oh, we're the best. We're gonna beat everybody. And Vega's already said it, but like it's good to get knocked down a little bit, because then you're having to bounce back and you kind of get that little bit of humble pie. And so I'm confident that the Rat Lords will bounce back. I think they play Hylert Coven this week, so pretty big matchup as far as the playoff standings. But no, Bad Boys Club, they looked really good in both their games. I don't really have a whole lot to. I think they've confidently made their claim for first place.
Yeah, that was going to be my point. Is I think them beating Rat Lords is huge for them as far as like the group goes, because I think last week we were talking about relative power and how we were still kind of unsure exactly where that fell in the group. Now it's a little bit more of okay, Bad Boys Club looks like, you know, a convincing 2-0 victory. Even though I think Rat Lords obviously will bounce back and be one of those top teams by end of split. I think it's huge for Bad Boys Club to kind of have that statement game, right? As we talked about in a couple other groups where we haven't had like top teams play each other yet. This is a good example of a group where like 2 of the top teams played each other and there was a clear like victor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, and for Rat Lords, no good deed goes unpunished. I mean, right back into the fire this week with Hylert Coven. That'll be a hype matchup to kind of push it. Who's the second best team in this group? And you got a lot of people waiting in the wings because, you know, the loser of that's going to be 2 losses. That puts, you know, Subhuman Resources, that puts Lurkers, LPP Boys all back in that conversation for, you know, competing for a playoff spot. So interesting group coming up in the next 2 weeks here.
Yeah, I mean, like we had the group of 2 O's in economy B, and then we take a look at this group, and I mean, almost no, like I want to say it, like there's so many 2-1s happening here, right? Of like teams taking a game off of another team and then sort of finding the loss after that. So this seems to be one of our soupier groups. We've got some extra soup going on here. And as we look at the middle of the pack a little bit here, and this is where we had some trouble starting to distinguish, you know, clear top versus clear bottom in our tier list. As we look at the middle of the pack here and we compare it to the tier list that we had developed at the beginning of the season, what are some of the big surprises, and what do we expect might happen if we had to do sort of like a mid-season prediction in terms of how this group starts to play out over the next few weeks?
I'm a little bit surprised by Mighty Pandas. I think that's probably my biggest like surprise of the group. Right, Mighty Pandas right now 0-4, 2-8 in game score. They were the team we picked at the top of the group.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, there's still the opportunity for like a 3-4, and like being a team that's in that like kind of tiebreaker mix. But unfortunately, 0-4 is kind of it's tough. One of the bad things about having played your games on schedule is we have a good read on kind of Mighty Panda's like relative strength right now. And I would say that's the biggest surprise for me. I expected them to be in that group at the top, and obviously things go wrong every year. Teams deal with stuff, and it is a tough group. There's a lot of good teams in this group, but yeah, right now that's got to be my biggest surprise. I think for me, Lurkers and LPP Boys being as close as they are to the playoff when they were kind of relative unknowns for us coming into the season is great. That is awesome. They are in striking distance of being playoff teams and pushing a favorite out of the playoff.
Yeah, it does seem like are the teams we picked as some dark horses here are sort of like really in that like dark horse like 5-6 position where it's like we're just squeaking into the playoffs or looking at the playoffs a little bit here. And Commercial remind me is one of the groups where I think it's top 5 go to playoffs, right? And then
Yep,
it's
and
the
then one wild
sixth is
card.
wild card. Okay, yeah. So definitely like in that playoff picture, or at least contending to be in it. So it does seem like things are going to get a little bit spicy over the next few weeks. Maybe somebody's adding a little bit of red pepper flakes or chili powder to the soup. Les Force, tell me a little bit about some of your thoughts on Commercial Group A before we push it on over to Commercial Group B.
I think we've already kind of summarized it pretty well. Subhuman Resources, I did catch some of their game against the Coven, I think it was this past week. That was a really competitive series. I think that was the Coven's kind of first kick in the teeth as well.
Mm-hmm.
They play really well as a team. Carly Slay Jepsen, I won't say their top laner's new name, formerly known as Genesis. They seems like they play on the same page really well, kind of team fighting. Seems to be a strength, and I think especially in commercial that can get you far. So I'm curious to see how they do, and I'm curious to see where the rest of this soup group takes us. Because again, like I said, anyone kind of in that murky middle could certainly punch their way up.
And Murky Middle was my nickname in high school as we push on over to Commercial Group B. Nobody, don't worry about it. So as we start to think about sort of the relative power between Commercial Groups A and B, and then we'll talk a little bit about Commercial Group C. And don't worry, I was going to say the High Alert Henchman. You want to know why? Because that's what the team is called. I don't care what you have to say. So let's take a look at this team. We've got two teams topping the group with the exact same score line: 4-0, 8-1 in games. Wouldn't it be crazy if they played each other? So let's talk a little bit about this group, what the top teams are, and then what some of the teams sort of in the underdog position or struggling a little bit more to find their footing, what they can do to start punching up. So let's start with talking about the top two teams in this group, which are Big Pharma and High Alert Henchmen.
So, there is a little bit of a caveat as far as the High Alert Taco Bell McNugget series from last night. It did go to 3 games.
Yeah.
Game number 2 was a 4v5 for the first 20 minutes. So,
wait, what?
That's when I tuned in and I was like, "What is happening in this game?"
So, I don't really have like all the details, but basically they didn't have they did the draft and then their ADC couldn't play. So they had a Jinx sit in base the first 20 minutes and their Thresh solo laned. So they tried, for a 4v5, they were doing pretty well. I mean, the towers were doing a lot of work as far as Thresh hooking them under tower and killing, but they were hanging on for a while. Ultimately, context doesn't matter. You guys took your first loss. Pretty disgraceful. But no, they're still looking really, really good. And they bounced back in a big way game 3 once their player came back. I think High Alert is looking really good, but they've got a
Which High Alert?
super the Henchmen. I believe that's how they're called.
Yeah.
But they got a big test this week against Big Pharma, a new team to the league, and they've been looking just as dominant.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's got a. I mean, playing a 4v5 in an LBLCS match, bit of a bummer. But it looks like they were able to bounce back. Him is saying that the dad and brother came in to get into the lobby, pick Jinx, and move around in Fountain to avoid the AFK Lever Buster. Which, I mean, hey, that's a that's a family first, you know. So there we go. We've got some like warm and fuzzies on that one. Vega, tell me a little bit about some of your thoughts looking at this at the top of this group, which are pretty clearly Big Pharma and High Alert, and then it seems like we've got a couple of teams there at that 3, 4, and 5 positions, sort of looking up as well.
Yeah, my goats are having a little bit of a rough time right now, but I believe TVA gonna turn around. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think right now Big Pharma High Alert look very clearly like they are in a tier of their own right now, and I think this next week's matchup is going to be, or this week or next week they play, and that's going to be a big thing for this group. Really, so the pecking order of like who's the best team. Um, Outside of that, I think DB, Avalanche, Wonder Kid are all kind of in that soup range, right? These are 3 teams with 2 slots to get into the playoffs. It's going to get nasty down the stretch. Every win is going to matter. Every game is going to matter, especially for tiebreakers. So I think those are teams that are at the point in the season where they got to start figuring it out, right? They got to start figuring out, hey, we've got to be picking up wins. We got to be playing. And, teams, I haven't looked at the schedule for each of them, but, if you're a team that has Big Pharma or High Alert, henchmen on your schedule going down the stretch, you've got to make sure that, you're picking up the wins around that, because that's going to be a tough series for you. And if you're a team that's already played them and you're sitting in like a 2-2 or 2-1, you're going to feel more optimistic, right? You're playing against your peers who are trying to get those last 2 playoff spots. So I think right now it's the classic 2 spots left, 3 teams. It's going to be a mess going down the stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. And then like that random wild card slot that might end up going over to your team if you end up being in that 6th pole position there. That's not how you use that lingo. Pole is just first, right? Pole position is first.
Yeah,
So you don't say
your
first,
pole
6th
because
pole position.
they put flags down the pole. So if
Yeah.
you're on pole position, you're the top person.
Yeah. So 6th pole position just doesn't make
I
any
watch
sense.
F1.
Yeah, I like to think that I know things at least. So it seems like what we've got is like we've got this big matchup between the Titans of Big Pharma versus High Alert Henchmen, and then we've got a bunch of these matches between some of these other teams that are sort of scrambling for the remaining few playoff slots there. So tell me a little bit about some of these teams before we sort of round out our discussion on commercial with Commercial Group C.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like we said, there's a lot of good teams and only so many spots. Like it might be too soon to say, but if I had to make my bet, I think whoever is going to get that 6th spot, that wild card, is going to come from this group, because like right now, Team Backflip's in the 6th spot, and like we know how scary Backflip can be, but it is just such a tough group. TVA had a tough series this week against CLG that went to 3. Detroit versus everybody, they are looking really good. I know that, earlier episodes they were one of those teams that hadn't gotten their first couple games scheduled, so we didn't really know what we had, but they looked pretty dominant. I think it was against Backflip this week. And so yeah, I see Vegas looking to chime in, so I'm actually just gonna pass my baton over.
I did want to point out Backflip, 2 of their 3 losses. Well, actually, I guess 3 losses are the top 3. So they're a team, like I was talking about, that has the ability to pick up, wins now that they've already played Big Pharma, they've already played Henchmen. They are a team that can benefit from, like, oh, okay, we've got losses and our record may look, not great right now, but that can be deceiving, because if they're the 3rd or 4th best team, or, as Les4 said, this is a division where, we get that 16th team in as a wild card. Backflip very well could be that team. So that's an important thing to look at, especially in this group, is who's played who so far.
So we will very much be looking forward to thinking about that, and perhaps our commercial match of the week will come from Group B. Who's to say? Who's to say? We'll see after Group C. So let's go ahead and look at the standings over here for Group C as I adjust the picture size. Don't worry about it. I promise I prepare. And another sort of situation where we've got a clear top. OML Original Geezers Undefucking-Feated. That's a word. And then this is our commercial group C, which should be renamed commercial group D for dogs, or commercial B for barks. Who's to say? I don't know. I don't make the rules. They just pay me to talk a lot, and they don't pay me anything at all. So, let's first. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of your thoughts on Commercial Group C before I kick it over to Vega? We'll reveal our commercial match of the week and scale up on into financial.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking there at the top. These two teams they faced off this past week, and Old Man Land kind of, I don't want to say they dominated the Naughty Dogs. I do see that there's a Shaco in this series, so I'm not sure how he came to this conclusion, Luffy. Um, but no, I mean the Old Man Land, they're looking really good. They made playoffs last season, kind of their first taste of competitive action. Seems like they kind of, I think they shifted a couple players around, kind of got this new unit of five still around like their core of like Topher, Unsane One, and they're looking really really good. They took out who was previously kind of the top dogs in the group, pun intended. They got a
Nice.
couple more down the stretch. But as of right now, they should be sitting pretty solidly as that top team. And then Naughty Dogs, again, we talked about it with the Rat Lords. How are you going to bounce back after
Hmm.
getting your getting kicked in the teeth a little bit? I'm sure Luffy, someone, those guys have played forever, so they're no strangers to losing and bouncing back.
Hmm.
So I'm curious to see what they got in store.
Yeah, I mean, time will tell. It will see if they're able to, if they're going to turn tail and run away, or if they're going to be able to level up and scale back in, or will their bark just be worse than their bite? Who's to say? Vega, what are some of your thoughts on Commercial Group Bark? Commercial Group C, for before we round out our discussion on this league.
Um, this is a good example of a league where there's some teams who have played games, some teams who are still missing games, so it's kind of hard to get a read on the middle of the field. But for to point to the Naughty Dogs, I mean, you live by the sword, you die by the sword, right? That's a team that if they're ahead, their game plan is to team fight to push their advantage. If they're even, their game plan is to team fight to take to take control of the game. If they're behind, their game plan is to team fight so that they can scrap back into the game. So I think Old Man Land showed that that they have the hands to go paw to paw, or they have the paws to go paw to paw with the Naughty Dogs. Um, but outside of that, I mean, this group's still very wide open, right? I think One Tail, OE Outlaws, Dogs that Bark, TF Blue, they're all within one game of each other. Good examples like OE Outlaws 4-5, Dogs that Bark's 5-4 in actual games. There's not a lot of difference there in actual like games played. Yeah, I still think this is a great soup group. I still think Naughty Dogs and Old Man Land are kind of the cream of the crop so far in this group, and that one of them was going to beat the other, and that was going to be the 1-2 pecking order for me. But you never know. We still got a lot of games to be played. But Old Man Land's only played 3 games in the series. We still got a couple teams to play, so we'll see. Anybody could slip up.
And maybe we could toss a couple of comments at the middle of the pack here,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of like thinking about what when we think about the schedule and the relative strength of schedule, teams that have lost versus the top teams and yet to play the big boys, teams that have beat some of the middle of the pack teams and have yet to play the big boys. What are some of our thoughts going into these final few weeks here that are really sort of going to start to determine these last couple of playoff spots here? I don't think anybody's locked. And I think OML has probably locked playoffs, and I think Naughty Dogs have as well. But and I don't think anybody's locked out of playoffs at this point in the season.
Yeah, I think Dogs that Bark. If I'm looking kind of at like this next, like basically the clump afterwards, they're kind of the team. And I know 2-2, like TFF Blue, certainly they're good. They're 4-1 at the moment, but Dogs that Bark, they've been a team that's been around a couple seasons. They've always kind of snuck into that playoff picture. I think last season they might have gone to the second round, if I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And like looking at their stats, I mean, like they've got a lot of people popping up here on the top stats. Matt C. I know Linoleum from the Dogs has said like this guy's the best AD carry in the group. 10 kills a game certainly supports that theory. They've got a lot of experience. I think they've shuffled their roles around a little bit, and their schedule down the stretch doesn't look like they got the old man game out of the way, I believe, unless I'm blind.
I think so.
That was week 1, so they still have to deal with the Dogs. But I think if I'm looking at this next like group on who I think's gonna jump up, I would put my money on Dogs that Bark, and hopefully they don't bite the hand that feeds them. You know what I mean?
I like it. I like it. Vega, what are some of your thoughts in the middle of this pack before we reveal our commercial match of the week and bounce on over to Financial Group A?
I think it's gonna get spicy. Week 6, TFF Blue and Dogs That Bark play each other. I think that's going to tell a lot of that because a lot now is, if people assume that they're gonna get a loss against Naughty Dogs, No Man's Land, not saying they will. Obviously, people get upset. But these head-to-head matches like that are going to be big. I think One Tail at 1-2 is a team that could surprise, even up to having like a decent record into the 5 seed. But for me, unfortunately, I agree with Les Force here. I think TFF Blue is a team that I've seen have success, and I believe that even in their game score, they're 4-1 overall. They haven't dropped. They've only played 2 series, but they've looked pretty strong in those series. And I do think that Week 6 matchup against Dogs of Bark is going to tell a lot about this group.
Yeah, absolutely. So once the middle of the pack starts getting stratified a little bit more, then we'll start to have some more solidified thoughts on exactly who is going to be the commercial Group C representatives in playoffs. Which of course takes us to our Week 5 match of the week for the commercial league, which is going to be from Group B, and it's Big Pharma versus High Alert Henchmen. Right? It's these 2 big dog teams in the not dog
Wait, that's
group.
what we picked?
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
I read my shit this time, okay? So I'm really excited to see what ends up happening in that matchup. Will Big Pharma continue their new guy, new team coming in, dominating the league situation, or will the High Alert Henchmen represent the LBLCS mainstays and defend their title? Now, let's push on over to thinking about financial, where we've got Financial Group A on the board here, and I'll readjust the image to be a little bit bigger there. Nice. Okay, so what are some of the thoughts that we have on Financial Group A? It looks like we've got another one of these situations where we've got a team that's undefeated in series, have only dropped 1 game, and then a couple of teams in the middle of the pack. It feels like that's going to be the theme that we keep returning to time and time again. We've got a clear top, 1 to 2, maybe 3, and then we've got that like the 3 through 6 slots, real competitive in there. So Vega, why don't you start us off by talking about Financial Group A?
I want to lead off with, this is my favorite group in LBLCS. I think that it is the most like fun, bouncing around, people taking games off people, random teams at random times being in different forms. I think Secret Lair is a team that we kind of circled as being like a potential good team in this group. Seeing them start out 6-1 and how good they've been has been awesome. I think Monkeys was a team where we were really high on them. Then they had a little bit of a stumble out of the gate, and now it seems like they've kind of gotten to where we thought they would be. They've started to play, and part of that was because of subs, obviously. But now that it seems like their main roster is playing. And yeah, we've got a great mix in this group of teams that we thought were going to be very good, and teams that we weren't sure about that are just taking games off each other. NLR at 1-2, Big Dig Summer was a team we had a question mark about. 2-2, and they've looked good in their wins. Weez and Sons also has been very good. Naughty gets its first win this week, so now they're in the mix for this. And I mean, even Panther Core Ghost, who's sitting at 0-3, they're only 2 wins out of that playoff slot right now. If you can start taking games off people, it's still very possible to go 4-3 and get out of this group. And Anima sitting there at 1-2, still very much in the mix in this group. So I think, even though Secret Lair's top team in this group right now, I think this group is the most top to bottom, closest in skill. Like, and it is so tight between all of them.
Yeah, I remember like our discussion last week was that like this was a very volatile group, right? Like any game, any series can go any way. And I think you're right. Like I don't think we can. I think the PC Ghosts scoreline is sort of misleading in the sense like there were a bunch of scheduling issues and they use subs, as all teams in the LBL should do, to get their games scheduled. So if you don't have a whole lot of games scheduled and you do have a couple of subs on your roster who haven't played those games, then I don't know, side eye. So now that I think that they've got some of those roster issues kind of settled out with some more aligned schedules. So we'll see what ends up happening if they're able to make that mid-season level up. Naughty question marks, like you said, picking up their first dub, right? Again, you can't count any team in this group out, nor can you necessarily count any team in this group in. Les Force, what are some of your thoughts on Financial Group A before we keep it ticking on down the alphabet?
I mean, I think that's just pretty much a great way to summarize it. I mean, I think Weez and Sons, they were looking really good. Naughty, team that lost their first couple series, took a bit of a hit. Naughty picked up that big series win, which I think was huge for them as far as their playoff push. Again, now they're only 1 series out instead of 2. Big Dig Summer has kind of stumbled a little bit. They came out the gate super hot. I think they were the team that faced Needlessly Large Rods week 1 and kind of like shattered those expectations a little bit.
Yep.
Last 2 series, I think they played Weeds and Sons and Monkeys. So again, it's not that they're quote unquote losing to teams beneath them, because of course by the standings, those are some of our top teams in the group.
Yeah.
But hopefully, they've had they got that taste of victory. They've gotten that taste of defeat. Hopefully they're figuring out a way to kind of bounce back. Because like you said, anyone can beat anybody in this group, and you don't want to be that team that kind of gets the unlucky draw of losing too many times in a row. And then yeah, I mean, other than that, just NLR picked up a big win in their last match. I don't actually think they played. I don't think they've played this week. I think they're still
not
sitting at 1 and
sure.
2. It looks like Panther Core Ghost. I mean, if it's not Milk, it's PC, I guess. With games not being scheduled.
What?
Hey,
But no, I'm curious to see how that one bounces back.
3 out of 4?
how am I taking a shot on this? Okay.
How did I take a shot? That was just an excuse to take a shot at Vega.
No, it was like by proxy, right? I mean, we've been saying all season like the Milk team's not getting their games in.
It's
and
one
all
team.
the whole. Well,
And it's the team that my partner is on, which should be the easiest to schedule because I'm right here. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a
it
fun
doesn't
group. It's a fun
necessarily mean
group.
it's the easiest.
We can we can take this argument offline. Yeah, it seems like I maybe have
Yeah,
struck a
Jack, why don't we
struck a chord
take this
here.
outside?
Yeah, let's take this
Oh,
shit
wait.
outside. Let's go
Let me
meet up in Hell 5, New York. So
I'm gonna leave.
yeah, I mean, look, like it is what it is. You got to get your matches scheduled. Everybody's got to do it. There's a makeup week for a reason. Use your subs. We make you guys have 7 players on a roster at minimum for a reason. So just go ahead and get
Yeah,
that
we just
done.
play all 7 games in makeup week. There's 7 days.
You totally could, and honestly, you could just do them all in one day too. Just start in the fucking morning and just can't lose
Don't
all
get
day if you
tilted.
don't start in the morning.
Could you
Don't get
imagine
tilted,
21
game
games
one.
of competitive league in a day?
I
can't imagine 21 games of league in a day.
I can't imagine 21 games of competitive league in a lifetime, and yet here the fuck I am. So anyway, as we keep it cruising on over to Financial Group B, we start to see a little bit of some familiar names here. This is a group from which our Week 4 match of the week was selected, which is going to be played tonight, as I hope I would know, and I would also hope Lest Force knows.
Be there.
Yep, so be there or be square. I don't think it's getting streamed, but maybe some kind individuals will red zone that shit. I think it's far fewer matches this tonight than there have usually been, but I also haven't been keeping up with the stream sheet as much as I have in the previous week. So
Oh.
maybe I just haven't listed them. What?
I have a Panther Core sticker on my computer.
Oh, nice.
I don't have anything from Less Force to be like.
Yeah, get
Go.
fucked. Get fucked, Less Force.
I don't-
Where's your stickers?
That's all right. Yeah, I'm just like not cool enough to make stickers. Like I don't want to.
I'll send
I
you.
mean, it
the
only
links.
hurts.
Hey, if you want any milk merch, I'd be happy to hook you up.
Oh, true.
Right. I did see some baller milk merch.
You know
Shameless
what?
plug. Shameless.
You know what? You can milk me anytime. And as we take a look at these standings, we see that there are absolutely some pretty dominant teams in this group. Omega Gaming coming out really freaking strong. They were our dark horse selection, as is represented in our tier list, and they're currently 3-0-6-1. They're the team against whom we are yet to schedule our week 2 match, as the Highlanders is, and so we keep trying to figure it out. We're dodging them. We're trying to level up. Maybe that's what it is. It looks like we've got Princeton in the chat, who I believe is the either mid laner or 80s carry for Omega Gaming. So, yeah, that's a pretty scary fucking team. And then the Narwhals remain undefeated, though 1 fewer series played. And then a couple of teams yet to really put their names on the board as such. And yeah, wow, we have the least series played in our group. No. Not in Narwhals also has 2 series played, so not too bad. All right,
Schedule your games, Jack.
Taking a look at these standings. I'm ignoring that. Taking a look at these standings, and thinking about all the different sorts of funky little things that can happen in here. What are some of our thoughts about Financial Group B?
I would say this is like the prime example of like why in preseason this year we changed our stuff to like dark horse instead of like a 1 to 8 ranking. Is like Omega Gaming is the like epitome of that take, right? It's like we didn't know what to expect from this team, and now we do. They're really good.
Yeah.
They're really good. There's nothing more I love being wrong about than not knowing how good a team is going to be, and then them being really good. They're really fun to watch. 6-1 in game score, which means they've 2-0'd twice, 1-2-1 series. They've looked clean in those games. I do think the game tonight's gonna say a lot if Livewire can get to 3-1, or if Jack's team falls to 1-2, they start to humble down those standings. It gets harder and harder to climb back. But no, I think this group has a lot of teams that have only played 2, 3. There's only, I think, 2 teams that have played all 4 series, and both of those are right dead in the middle of the playoff lock right there. So a nice bar in the middle of this group. But yeah, it's still wide open. I think Beer Sacks and Talking Ben, obviously, at the bottom, they're looking to scrap and pick up any wins they can right now. But this group is still so wide open. I mean, if 5 Musketeers or TDS lose another series, they're at 3 loss. That opens the door for Beer Snacks and Talking Ben. But yeah, I think seeing Omega start to match up against some of the other better teams in the group will stay a lot. And I think the match tonight, obviously, is going to speak a lot about that playoff picture.
Yeah, and as we take a look, as we think about the playoff picture, right? Like we've got we've got a couple of teams that are pretty we would consider to be sort of like on the topper end of the side, right? We've got Not In Our Walls, Omega Gaming, Live Wires, and then per our tier list, the 5 Musketeers and PC Highlanders as well. That's 5 teams. One of those teams is not going to playoffs. Maybe more of those teams as well if TDS can hold their spot, or if Beer and Snacks and Talking Ben can start to strike up a little bit more here in these final few weeks. So that again, like this is one of those really exciting groups. I think that like we had titled them Playoff Nightmares last time. I mean, hey, I'll take that title. Les Force, what are some of your thoughts on Financial Group B before we keep it pushing on over to C?
Don't sleep on the 5 Musketeers. 2-2. I don't think really tells the full story with them. I think they had several subs when they played the Narwhals, and again, we're not diminishing the Naughty Narwhals. They are a very good team. Zebra, Ruffian, Unkindness, and company. But 5 Musketeers are very, very good. They beat my team last week 2-1. Hopefully we bounce back tonight against Jack.
We'll see.
Not, who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think tonight's matchup will definitely be very exciting. There's a reason why we picked it as match of the week, and it's not just because we play in it. Okay, I think that rounds out our discussion on Financial Group B, and we can keep it pushing on over to Financial Group C. So as we take a look at the standings for Group C, as we sort of tilt over the 50% mark in the Financial League, Dove Deodorant asking, can we skip C? I'm sorry.
Yeah, can we skip C? It's a bad week last week.
Bad week last week. All right. So lots going on here. There's a Team Volatility team, which hasn't been named yet. I'm not sure what's going on there.
What is that?
Tell me a little. I don't know. That's the problem. It's just Team Volatility, but it's Team Volatility what? Like I just don't know which Team Volatility team.
I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of it. That's you got to take that up with youngster Joey. He doesn't like the monikers. He just named the team TV. Like, and he's the more if you didn't know, we're cousins. He's the aggressive one. So like I try not to step up and like confront him because then I'll get bit and stuff. It's like a whole.
Oh yeah.
It's like a whole
Makes
thing.
sense.
But they looked a pretty big series against Buttermilk this week. It was a 2-0 in standings, but I think
like 45-minute games.
Yeah, I think that the 2-0 does not really suggest like how that series went, because like Vega, I was watching that live, and that game too, I'm sitting there thinking like,
I don't want to blow up. I don't even want to talk about it. We literally got 2 games of. I take full blame for this series. We just got outscaled 2 games there. We just like picked comps that, and then we couldn't end the game. And to be fair, and I'm not defending them because they lost because they suck. But they had played a series 2 days prior that I think was a little bit tilting to them, a 2-1 loss. And then, of course, Bear, being the shrewd businessman that he is, immediately was like, we need to play this game early, or we could have no time to scrim in between the series. So they did play back-to-back series, and obviously I think we just had a bad meta read. But I will say this, I do think now this group, I've seen the DMs, Bear. Don't come in here trying to.
Is this a Mickey Mouse 2-0?
No,
think
no,
it
I think
seems
no.
like
I
it.
think my point was going to be I do think volatility is the best in this group, and then I think the rest is a mess because like Gerk's Crew's in second, but Gerk's Crew lost to Buttermilk.
Mm-hmm.
And then Buttermilk's in third, and then TFC's in fourth. But TFC's 2 losses look rough, right? But I think they're a team that we know can be very good. Then Old Man Land very much is still in there. CLG Plumbers is still in there. So I think that like a lot of outside of volatility, I think volatility is the best team, and I think their win against Buttermilk says a lot about them because a lot of people credit Buttermilk with being a good team play team,
Mm-hmm.
and for them to win in games that were close going into late game and required good team play says a lot about how good volatility is. So
Loving the take here from Nesnud. Bear poaches, steals ideas, and then rushes teams. True.
Classic Bear TV activities.
Classic Bear TV activities. So I don't know. This guy's just got no interpersonal discernment. I don't know what's going on with that. What are some of the TFC drops to Gerk's Crew. Gerk's Crew being one of our dark horse teams, and TFC sort of being one of the teams we expected to be very solidly at the top of the group. Is TFC just an Earl King team, or is something else happening here that we need to understand?
I mean, last week I kind of gave my 2 cents on TFC, and that it kind of felt a little bit like they were resting on the laurels. They were like, "We'll be fine once we get to playoffs. We just gotta," but like you gotta get there, and now you've lost that second series, and in this group where I mean, Old Man Land was fairly competitive, as I see a prediction has gotten started.
Oh boy.
Old Man Land, they did lose to Fried Chicken, but they looked pretty good. CLG Plunderers, I don't think they faced off yet. Like, there's plenty of room for Fried Chicken to fall out of playoffs, and you can't just you have to get to playoffs before you can say, okay, once we're in playoffs, we'll be fine. So, I mean, I think of those teams. I mean, I did watch CLG Dynasty Stray on stream on Thursday, I think it was. I say I watched on stream. Bear and I streamed them. Plunderers, they looked like they played really well as a team. Looked like the jungle support synergy was coming up a little bit. But I think Old Man Land's kind of the team that I'm most interested in because I don't think they've played Team Volatility yet. They took the series off of Buttermilk. So a lot of upward mobility, I think, for the elderly Zoomers.
Also, I think CLG plays Buttermilk this week, so that's a nice soup game. Now, one of those teams is going to be 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So that's going to be tough. But I do think also there's so much infighting in the middle of this group that teams like Gentleman and Dynasty Stray could very much still play huge roles in what the playoff picture looks like in this group.
For sure, and even if they're not breaking into playoffs, but playing spoiler for a team that's really looking to get into playoffs, because even losing a game at this point, I mean, there's positions 3 through 6 are all at the almost the same score. And remember, financial, only the top 4 teams from each group go to playoffs versus the top 5 teams plus a wild card 6th from commercial, for example. So absolutely a very competitive environment here in Financial C. Very cutthroat indeed. I think we called this we had this being a soup group of a lot of very dangerous teams. All right, let's keep it pushing on over to Financial Group D to close out our discussion on the Financial Group before we take it on up to the upper echelons and chat about executive. And then we'll have our nice little hot takes over hotcakes segment. So if you have a hot take and you were selected to give a take, just go ahead and be ready for us to pull you on up in here. Vega, go ahead. Looks like you got a face on.
I have a question, Jack. When did you screenshot these?
What do you mean?
This was not updated either.
Oops. Hang on a second. That is the wrong one, and this is the right.
I was like, hold on.
That's right. That gives me time to figure out how to.
All right, there we go. I got it.
How to pay out this prediction. Oh, this is
how's that gonna go?
I feel like really only Nesnud's gonna get really affected here because he put 13,000 on Vega.
I put everything I have in, which was 1,000 schmeckles. But
you had 1,000 schmeckles?
The other night I went from when me and LeChance were casting, I went from 3,000 to 13,000 to 0.
Wow.
I always bet the under, no matter what.
Yeah, can't lose that way. Except when you lose. All right.
It should be Jack. Jack is objectively
Okay, guys, let's.
hotter.
Well, I pit two baddies against each other. All right, like let's. Like we can run away into the sunset another time, Vega. All right. As we are thinking about financial group D, and I have updated the image on the stream. It seems like we've got some pretty exciting stuff. Team Chaos, the Praetorian Simon Cowell group, really having a lot of success, continuing to keep atop that scoreboard. And then some of the other teams there, a lot fewer games played as far as I can tell, but definitely a fairly soupy groupie.
It's so weird. There's only one team in this group who's played all their games. This is so weird.
That's so odd.
Wait, what work is that? Oh,
It's milk, baby, because we play our games, except for soy milk.
Yeah. Well, bit of a bummer that, isn't it? Anyway.
Sometimes playing all your games is not a positive.
Sometimes playing all your games, it's like you said with what was it?
Maybe
the
best
other
not
team
to
there.
know.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe
we
best
just
not to know.
like leaving it a fucking mystery.
It's
Anyway,
Schrodinger's game.
yeah. We've simultaneously won and lost at the exact same time. All right, as we chitty chat about this group, this is a bit of a soupy group here, and could potentially be a bit of like an interesting playing spoiler here. Just tell me a little bit about some of your general thoughts on Financial Group D before we give up the financial Week 5 match of the week and push on into Executive.
I think chaos popping off in this group has thrown it into a little bit of, for lack of a better term, chaos. Because now Volatility Knights and High Alert Nightmares are kind of scrapping over the second spot, which puts some of those bubble teams in an awkward spot, right? Like Nice Narwhals. Now Sensei Randall's the team we thought was going to be very good. Now Sensei Randall's only played 2 series. They're 1-1. They're very much in contention in this group. You know, there's a lot of games to be played. Same for Nice Narwhals. But I think the biggest thing to me is there's almost no distance between anybody in this group. This group is, Team Chaos is 3-0. They have put themselves in probably the best position they can be, 6-1. Very good game score. But outside of that, Volatility's 2 weeks away from being 2-3 potentially. Same for High Alert. You know, these teams could very easily slide back and forth between each other. And now that the floor has started to go, Strawberry Milk picks up a game this week. You know, Outsiders has a win. Sensei Randall's has a ton of games to play. Trash Pan is still, 3-5 in game score. Very much could move up. It is very... I would not feel at ease as any team in this group.
Yeah. I think the series, and I don't think it's a match of the week in terms of like 1 seed versus 2 seed, but Nice Narwhals versus Sensei Randall's this week, I think will tell us a lot about where these teams stand. Because yes, it is only going to be the 3rd series of the week, but that's your 4-5, and in a group where we're feeling pretty good about Chaos, and we know the talent that's on paper for the Rat Knights and the Nightmares. You really only have that 1 playoff spot left, so you really, I don't want to say you can't afford to lose this series this week, but if you lose, then you've got to like make up ground somewhere else and take out one of those teams above you. So I'm curious to see what happens there. Not sure if that match has been scheduled just yet, but big playoff implications in this group. And for all we know, TV and High Alert, those are 2 orgs that are known for stumbling out of playoffs. Could always happen. I'm allowed to flank because it's my team and it's Bears. But certainly, those 2 teams are looking pretty good right now. Just not. They both lost to Chaos, so there's really no claim that anyone else can be the one.
Yep. Maybe we'll see some interesting upsets somewhere down the line. But yeah, absolutely. Getting that 4-5 sort of angled out a little bit more in this group, especially when we think about the fact that 4 is that playoffs, like is the last playoff spot. I'm pretty excited to see what happens, but that is not our total financial match of the week. Our complete financial match of the week hails all the way back from Group A, which is Big Dig Summer versus Team Secret Lair, to see exactly who's going to keep showcasing what happens in that very exciting, very volatile group. Now, let's keep it pushing on up into Executive while taking a look at the standings for Executive Groups A and B, Executive Match of the Week, and then if you've got to take, get ready. Get your water, do your vocal warm ups. You need New York. You know New York. You know you need unique New York. All that fun stuff.
The Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
That's got to be discrimination. So as we start thinking about executive group A, I don't know. Don't ask. It seems like we have, like, generally it feels like in our conversations about executive, we have some of the least data. Just in terms of knowledge about teams as teams, knowledge about players as players, knowledge about different teams and different players. So, what kind of information do we have? Broken Household got, a 2-0 in their first series, so that's pretty exciting. Glue Eaters remains top of the group. What's going on in this group? What do we need to know? What are some of the bits and pieces that we've been able to pick up as a result of the standings, the matches, and what we know from some of the players?
If we pick Broken Household as our match of the week, they will indeed play their game. Want to know that series between Goobers and Broken Household was a 2-0, but it was a scrappy series. That was a lot of fun to cast, stuff like that. But I think in this group, man, when you go through so many groups, by the end you're like, I feel like I've said this ad nauseum. But this is a scrappy group.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of teams within striking distance. Part of that is because teams have not played games, and the bye week makes it weirder.
Yeah.
The fact that there are 7 teams in a bye week, because you're going to have weeks where you see someone who's in a 1-2, or you see someone who's played 3 games, and that's not their fault. They actually straight up had a bye week.
Not Broken Household.
But this is a group.
Not
Broken Household, though.
A couple matches to play.
Not Broken Household. Yeah. But I think I'd honk to that. Obviously, is like at 0-3 is in a tough spot. I think right now they're a team that really has to, like, the next couple weeks need to be like lock in for them. But outside of that, like, Goobers is right outside of that playoff picture at 1-2, but they're 3-4 in games. They are right there, and that's with an 0-2 loss. So they're right there at being a team that's in that playoff, and that's with playing Broken Household, who we thought was going to be one of the best teams in the group. Glue Eaters are where we thought they'd be. And then kind of, lose to improve, looking good. They were an unknown for us. I still think executive just as a whole, and we'll probably see this when we talk about executive B too, it's just so wide open.
Yeah, I totally agree. Les Force, what are some of your thoughts on executive group A?
It's just like we got to see Broken Household, I think, a little bit more. I mean, they've only played 1 game, and we're coming up at the end of week 4. They could be right up there with Glue Eaters. They could be, middle of the pack. I think I like S&E Academy of this, like, middle group the most. The couple series that I have seen have been pretty solid. Again, you look at the stats. Randall, Comet, like, they have several players that are, like, frequently making perform. I think is that their bot lane, or it might be their mid and support. I want to see. We haven't gotten a ton of exec games streamed just yet. And that kind of goes hand in hand with, like, getting them scheduled. Hopefully we can get some more eyes on executive A, because I think this is like the land of unknown, other than the Glue Eaters, who are, again, I mean, they've been around since the Plumbers era. We know what they are, and they are really good. So it's up to the rest of these teams to kind of, like, make their mark.
Absolutely. And they did well in the Plumbers era, and they're doing well out here as well. So it seems like the Glue Eaters are really holding it down for the LBLCS veteran community there. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like the theme of executive is needs more data. That's what we said last week about executive group A. We said limited info about executive group B. So if you're an executive player and you would like to bring in some spice to the executive league, please do so. Hit one of our DMs, me, Vega, Lest Force, or Valentine. Whichever one of us is your favorite, you can DM them, and we'll take it personally. We pinky promise. So, as we head into our discussions about Executive Group B, which is, again, another group where we just don't have a whole ton of information, it seems like some of our... Oh, I'm getting confused because Make-A-Wish wasn't on our original list. But it seems like we did pretty mediocre with our tier list predictions there. Again, not a whole ton of information. What's going on in Executive Group B? that we need to know in order to kind of stay up to date or stay appraised with the common knowledge?
I think that unlike the other group, this group is more of a two-tiered system to me. I think right now Make-A-Wish and Dirty Rats kind of look like they're a little bit ahead of the race, but not without bruises, right? Both of them have dropped games throughout the series. Dirty Rats they're 3-1, but they're 6-5 in game score. So almost every match they play is a fist fight. Make-A-Wish is 7-4, also at 3-1, so both of them very close to each other. But below that, I mean, technically, Bang Dung Tigers could be 3-1. We don't know because they've only played 2 series. They're 1-1. But then you have a bunch of 1 and 2 teams, right? This is one where like there's no team who should feel like they're out of the race.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's this team. I mean, literally from 5th or from 4th till 7th, they're all the same record, almost same games. I mean, 4th and 5th same game score. So this group, I know I said group 1 was close, guys. I know I said that, but I need you to forget that because this group is actually really close.
Yeah, I completely agree. And having all of those 1-2 teams, I think, makes a group really exciting. Les Force, what are some of your thoughts on Executive Group B before we reveal our match of the week, and then we head into to our new segment, Hot Takes over Hot Cakes?
I think we got a big match on the horizon this evening. Let me just double check. Actually, in about 45 minutes, Eclipse versus Diamond 4 Gamers gonna be facing off. So that's gonna have a really big shakeup in that middle of the standings. From what I understand, I think they're like they're scrim partners going into the season or something like that. So they have a lot of history with each other. Eclipse, I certainly think are a really good team. You know, you've got Ninja, you've got Rescued. I've heard that their top laner is a monster. I haven't seen it firsthand, but apparently has done Bear dirty in a couple scrims in the past.
Well, who hasn't?
Have you, Jack?
I might have set him up a little bit there. Yeah.
Have you?
Probably could.
Hey, I mean, I have to imagine it's happened.
But no, I mean, like you said, it's too early. Like some groups, we kind of have a good sense of like where teams are going to end up likely, but right here, I mean, it really just everyone's kind of in that soup. DRX, we know that just based on their history, they're probably going to make playoffs in some capacity because they always do, and then they have a solid run. But other than that, it's wide open ball game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty stoked to see what happens, and as you said about the wide open ball game, I feel like that just sort of brings us nicely into discussing our executive match of the week for week 5, which is going to be from Group B, which is Pose 5 Toes versus the Guangdong Tigers. This is going to be a matchup that starts to help us determine what's going on in that soup a little bit there, as in positions 3 through 7 in this group. Can Pose 5 Toes break the 1-2 curse? Will they give it to Guangdong Tigers? That is pretty exciting. So we'll get to see exactly what happens there. And just to reply quickly to Mewtwo Life, the economy match of the week was Kickin' Squids versus Doggy Bone Goblin Zone. So if you Mew, we can get you in the LBL in the booth waiting room voice chat. Maybe Lust Force can go ahead and get that done. But let's go ahead on over and we'll take a look at our brand new graphic, our brand new stinger for Hot Takes over Hot Cakes. Here it goes. I hope you really liked that. So
that's really cool.
And that took me about.
That was great work.
Took me about 8 3/4 minutes this morning.
That's because you're so talented.
That's just because I'm just a talented guy. That kind of cake. Yep. Exactly. Now hot taking will be Mew Life. So we'll see. So hopefully Lest Force is able to bring them in soon. Lest it will be with us soon. They're double checking with Mew Life about these hot takes. Vega, what are you hoping for from these hot takes as we start to go through them?
I like takes that are thought provoking. They make you kind of question your thought process around something. So usually when people pose takes about like I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything because I've read some of the takes. Obviously, we reviewed them to make sure we weren't getting anything insane. But I really like the stuff we have. But whether it's discussion around a player, a play style, approach to the game, thought process. I love takes like that to just let us, the three of us, discuss out things.
Yeah, I mean, I love discussing things. discussing things is really fun. Lest Force, is Mew
Yeah.
Life ready to come onto the show to give their hot take?
They are ready to go. Got some econ takes, some commercial takes. I think we got a financial take. Got all the fixins. I will go ahead and pull New Life in, and then you can let them
Go ahead.
give their take. Oh, there's so many voice channels. I gotta find the right one.
It's all the way at the bottom.
It's right below us.
Well,
Mew
no, I
Life,
like the
welcome
truck.
on to the booth. Thank you for being our very first guest for Hot Takes Over Hotcakes. We've got a plate of hotcakes ready for you to go. Can you serve us the hot takes? What you got for us?
Alright, so it is a kind of a two-parter, but it's in decline. I think right now, my team, 2% Milk, is the best econ team,
Whoa.
and my jungler, I'm not even going to try and tell you how to say his name, because I call him by his real name, Matt.
Okay.
He's the best jungler in econ right now, and that's my hot take.
Okay, so your hot take is that 2% Milk is the very best team in economy, and that your jungler, who shall not be named except by his real name of Matt, is the best. jungler.
Karyokazu. I'm pretty sure it's
Thank you.
Karyokazu.
Oh,
Something like that.
who knows? Okay, so give us a little bit of justification for your take here. Pour some syrup on it, if you will.
I'll start with our team. Well, we're not only are we 6-0,
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure if you look at all, we have the lowest game time.
Ooh.
Of our 6 games, we've ended 3 of them in under 25 minutes. We've only went over 30 minutes twice,
Mhm.
and we've never touched 40 minutes.
Well, that does sound. It sounds like you've been winning a lot, and your wins are pretty dominant. Vega, care to give us any behind-the-scenes thoughts about what's going on here with 2% Milk and what makes them so fortified?
I will attempt to shed my bias. But no, for speaking to the point for Mew Life is I think they have really good structure as a team. You can see last week they had to have their top laner play mid and a sub top laner. They operated just like another day at the office. Games were structured and things like that. I think they have really great shot calling. I can kind of speak to that from behind the scenes. They have good direction as for what they're doing and things like that. And when they have their full roster, I think they have the best mid in economy. I think that Vader Yushchok is top of the board in KDA, he's top of the board in CS per minute. He's lowest deaths per game of a player. And to speak to the other point that they made about Karyokazu as a jungler, if you had asked me this take a week ago, I would have said no. I would have said I don't think they're the best jungler. They're playing with a team that has a lot of stars. But this week, with a sub mid laner, or with a top laner playing mid and a sub top laner, showed out in both of the games just as if they were playing with their standard roster. And I think now I more believe that point because I'm like, okay, that person had missed 0 beats in the jungle, tracking, getting massive CS leads, getting objectives, pushing the team forward. And I think that's where you can really tell the impact of a jungler is, hey, in this game, your lanes are not like they have been. You're going to have to shoulder that weight, and to not skip a beat and continue to be dominant like that, I think speaks a lot to it. To play devil's advocate, 2% has not played a team currently in the playoff standings yet. Or the overall record of the teams they've played against is 1-6. So I do think that, though I don't disagree. This is kind of like, to me, the same argument made last week for NGO when they were 3-0, where we were like, they look so dominant. They're beating teams in around 25 minutes. They're 3-0. They're 6-0 in games. It's a little bit of the same script.
So Mew Life, you gotta reply to that. Yet to face some of the bigger teams here in this economy group B.
Well, yeah, we haven't played Town or Doggy Bone, but
or
our first
Squids.
week, or Kicking Squids, but we beat the team that beat Kicking Squids, and we 2-0'd them.
Fair.
They're our first week. We beat Body Break 2-0.
To be fair, too, you can only play who's on your schedule. So it is an indictment, but in the same thing, it's like there's not anything you can do about that, right? Yeah. That is just like, that's one thing I think people could say, but ultimately, like, hey, in 2 or 3 weeks, we'll know, right? We'll know what that looks like. I obviously, it is impossible for me to completely separate myself from bias, but I do think that even if you're just looking from a statistical mindset right now, their team looks great on paper. They passed the eye test. And it's one of those things where it's not a team where I'm like, it's a new team who hasn't been here before and doesn't know. They've shown success. They're a team that's made deep playoff runs. I think that, I don't hate this take.
I bet not.
If anybody else wants to come on and say that they think a milk team is the best team in their group, feel free. I'm not sure you could make the case as well for the other ones, but yeah.
Well, there you go. Les Force, do you have any thoughts on Mew Life's take before we give them their to-go box and send them on their way?
I think as far as the like jungle specific take, it's kind of hard because it just depends on like the role that your jungler plays, right? Very surprise. I'll try and defend the junglers here a little bit. If someone gets put on Sejuani, Amumu, Maokai duty, it's kind of hard for them to necessarily look like a superstar player. Whereas I'm kind of looking at the 2% games and I see some like Brand, I'm seeing Viego. They have more of these like damage dealing carry oriented style picks, and that's not to say that like that's not to take away from them. It's just part of the discussion of like jungle, and you see this in like pro play all the time, where like you look at Umpty for TL, like super good jungler this season, but because almost all that he played was like tank jungles, he didn't really get the props that he deserved. Over kind of those carry players like Blabber, Inspired, stuff like that. So I'm just curious, like over the course of the season, if Kario Kazu can kind of show that they can do both sides of things. Can they play both that carry style and the and the facilitator role? And then as far as like your team overall take, I think that's just kind of like that question of like what's it going to look like once you get to playoffs? Because at this point, 2% looking like they should be in that playoff picture. 6-0 looking really good, but you're only able to play against the people that are in your group. And what we were seeing in Group A is a lot of really good teams. NGO, Sperm Whales have looked really good. We still think the Legion are up there. Fifth Spectrum just took down Nefarious. Even like FBI, Cuddly guys. Like, there's a lot of good teams in A, and that's where you have to ask, like, if the fifth place team in A was put in Group B, how would they be looking? So I think we're not going to have a real answer on that take until we get to playoffs. But to your point, like, you're doing what you can. Like, you can only play who you're up against every week, and you guys have won every game. So it's like there's not much more that you can do to prove that point until we get to playoffs, I think. But so far, it's pretty good.
Yep, completely agree. I can see the server bringing the to-go box on over. Mew Life, thank you so much for joining us and being our very first guest on Hot Takes Over Hot Cakes. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And Vega, you heard it here. You have to start drafting Karyokazu, some carry junglers to help solidify that that role there. So take some control, take some initiative. You own them. You can do what you want. Mew Life, thank you so much for joining us. Okay. And Les Force will go on and start to fetch our next guest over here for the hot takes over hot cakes. Vega, what do you think about that take now that Mew Life is gone?
I'll wait and see. It's tough. I mean, it's one of those takes where I'm like, on paper right now, I think it's fine, but also it's kind of like, I think a lot of power ranking during the regular season is hard, right? You really, because all anybody really remembers is the end of the season, who wins, right? So, sometimes even teams we perceive as like best teams or best on paper, best, performing in the regular season don't always win. So I think that's ultimately like what matters, right? We'll see at the end of the season.
Yeah, to be determined what ends up happening here. Les Force is our next hot taker, ready to go.
Yep, just pulled him back in. I got thrown in the got thrown for a loop. I was told it wasn't gonna be him, and then it was gonna be Bear, and now we're back to well, you know who it is.
Yeah, him. Welcome on over to Hot Takes Over Hot Cakes. Right, we've got our server bringing on over the hot cakes right now with a little bit of extra syrup. Don't worry, that sticky spot there, that's where Les Force spilled last week. Tell us, what kind of hot take do you have for us as we start to munch down on these hot cakes?
Well, before we start, if you can't tell already, I'm incredibly sick.
Sick
Bear
with
was
what?
supposed to be the. I don't know. We'll find
High
out.
alert
Monday.
fever.
Ooh.
True. I'm horking currently. Bear was supposed to be the one to do this, but apparently it's his dad's birthday, so I'm here instead. Anyways,
Happy birthday, Papa Bear.
Dads
Yup.
are irrelevant. Keep going.
my take is that Nox is the best bot laner in all of commercial, and he should be given his flowers for such. And Nox and Silver are the best bot lane duo in all of commercial.
Okay, so another best in their respective league situation. What sort of justification do you have for this as the butter starts melting a little bit on your hotcakes because of how
With
fucking
every
hot they
game,
are?
with every game that I play with these guys, Nox is constantly making shot calls like I've never seen an ADC do.
Mhm.
He is constantly topping CS charts while dominating their lane. Nox and Silver, the only reason that none of us have a high KP percentage on our team is because Nox and Silver keep fucking killing them in a 2v2.
Mhm.
The list goes on, really, but like my voice is hurting, so.
Okay, well, I will spare your vocal cords a little bit there, but it sounds like what we've got is a little bit similar to the take that we had over from Mew Life, and I love it. Coming on the show, hyping up your teammates. Les Force, what do you think of this take here?
I think that there's a lot of interesting stuff to kind of pack into there. I think, for one, it's really uncommon to hear a team say their AD carry is kind of like their primary shot caller. You know, oftentimes teams kind of put that on the support or the jungle, you know, the ones playing the tanks, to just kind of like say, go here, do this person. But it's interesting that like Nox, I guess, on high alert kind of does a lot of that stuff on top of showing the hands. So that is, I guess I'd call that a skill, a very unique skill to have. As far as like best bot lane duos, that's where, you know, it gets kind of tough, right? Because like even in Group B, you have a lot of tough bot lanes. You've got, you know, I Enjoy LOL and Zach M1203, who you guys did beat. You've got Igabajif and Full Metal on TVA. You guys beat them last season. We'll see how this season goes. Taking a look at just kind of trying to look at the other groups off the top of my head. I mean, you've got, you know, Linoleum and Happy Death. That is a bot lane duo that has done really well in the past. I don't think you guys have ever crossed paths.
I don't believe so.
Just kind of scrolling through. You've got Old Man Land. I think it's Nightly Cowler and Insane One. I mean, they are popping off here so far to start this season. And so there's just a lot of teams. And so it's like, certainly don't disagree that I think, you know, the high alert bot lane is kind of, I think that like mid, because I don't want to like say it's just the bots, right? Because I think you play your role really well. I think Panther in the jungle plays the role really well. So it's kind of one of those situations where like if everyone's doing their job really well, it's hard to say like this one guy is clearly the best. And so like I do, and Luffy's mentioning Matt C from Dogs That Bark. So another
contender there.
There's a lot of good AD carries and there's a lot of good duos. I think that they're doing super well so far. I mean, we literally saw how Silver in a 1v2 was hanging on in lane last night. So I think they're really good. I think the team is really good. I wouldn't hate if we say that they are the best duo.
Yeah.
All right, Vega, what do you think?
Westwork kind of said it very well. I will say, like, from a purely statistical point of view, it's not looks ahead of anyone else. In CS per minute, he's the only one in the 9 range. KDA, he's 3 points above the next closest person. He's sitting at 15.29 KDA. Obviously, like, very high gold per minute. His biggest detractor, unfortunately, will be the champion of this take, though. See, him also is in the top 10 of damage per minute. And I think when you play with who my opinion is the best mid in commercial, when you're an AD carry, one of the best things you can have is a good team around you. And AD carries shine the most when attention is off of AD carries. Now, I will say him's point about them getting kills in lane and shot calling. Those are things that, you know, if you were on the outside, like you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know like the shot calling things. And that does help to that. But I will say that, like, I don't hate this take. And if like we settled on like this is true, I would be totally fine with that.
Mm.
But I also think it should be said that I think AD carries benefit the most from a good position around them, from good tools around them. The AD, if a team is playing their job correctly, kind of like Les Force said, then an AD carry's job becomes that much easier. It becomes that much easier to be like a dominant force late in the game with high damage numbers and CS numbers if your team is setting up for it. And I mean, that's not necessarily fair to Knox to take away and say like, oh well, maybe if you had a worse team,
Right.
we could tell how good you were. But I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with this take. I think statistically, you look at it, both of them are very high up in the charts in every respective category for their positions. They're a team that's playing extremely well. Their only loss is when Knox was disconnected from the game. That is technically a true stat. But yeah, I think that the biggest detractor from this take is that they're such a dominant team that it can be easy to say like, well, your benefit of threats being all over the map for you.
Yeah, I mean, as you're right, Vega. I think that AD carry is probably the position which is most sort of catalyzed by the team that they have around him. I mean, that's why I play support. I'm like a pro enabler at this point. Him, would you like to mount a rebuttal against the commentary from Lest Force and from Vega as the server brings your to-go box over and we can bid you on your way?
I do think that Vega has a good point saying that because he has a good team around him, he can pop off a bit more.
So you agree that like you're really fucking good and like top
you're
something
really
your
good.
position. That's the take
really
you're agreeing with.
That's not what I'm gonna say, but I appreciate you saying it for me.
Humble king.
Anyway, I do think. Sorry, I'm like so ill right now. I wish I could give a better retort, but
Nah, you're good.
I just think you're wrong. I think he is the best, definitively.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Yeah.
I love you.
Well, we'll be sure to get you a to-go cup of some like lemon tea with honey or something like that and send you on your way. But thank you so much for joining us for Hot Takes Over Hotcakes and being our second ever guest on the segment. Him, we hope you have a great rest of your LBLCS season. And Lest Force, you can go ahead and start bringing on our next guest, and him, we will bid you adieu. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
I am. Feel better.
Oh, poor guy. I heard, being ill and having to go on a talk show. I mean, that's nuts.
Absolute trooper
Well, yeah.
to come on here and do that.
Yeah,
That means
I mean,
a lot.
mad respect over to him. Him is truly the guy. So absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Luffy's,
So our next take is it a fight? Oh, go ahead.
I think. I was gonna say, doesn't he have whooping cough? I'm not revealing HIPAA protected information. Okay.
Yeah, we won't do that.
Did I just join back
Won't do
to?
that.
No,
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Lest Force, it seems like our next guest here is ready to go. Prater Zach, welcome to Hot Takes Over Hotcakes. What kind of hot take do you have for us as we get your hotcakes on over onto the plate in front of you?
I'm glad to be here. I've got an interesting take and a couple different types of syrup I'm going to pour over it for you guys.
Okay, a couple different types of syrup. Let's get syrupy in here, man.
Beautiful.
So my take is proper scouting, draft cohesion, and coming into today with a plan is far more important than the skill or hands of the players on a team. A worse team that is on the same page that has done their due diligence will more often than not beat a better hands team.
So what I'm hearing here is macro over micro. That's
not
sort of
particularly.
Okay.
Not
Not just macro.
I'm talking about like scouting the enemy team, knowing what they play well. I'm talking about coming into set draft knowing these are going to be our priority picks. We know what their priority picks are. We can take one away from them, etc.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Vega, you are the big draft guy and like scouting and prep guy. So what are your I mean, you're nodding along, you look ecstatic.
I love this
take.
Thoughts? I love this take so much, but there is nuance to this take. There's a lot of nuance in that I'm glad this take is being made during the financial section of the show, because I think this is more true the higher up you get in like the LBLCS ranks. Like a financial and executive team, this is very much true. Like a team that has a really good plan and cohesive, and a baseline rank that's average for the league. Enough to where that difference in hands is not enough to make up for a great plan. But I think even to build on the take is like scouting and all that is very important, but almost having your own identity of what you want to play and prep for a game. Of like, we like this style, they play this style. How do we make sure our style works into what they're doing? And what do we pick and ban to deny that, to set ourselves? Or they like warding this every game. Their jungler always full clears to bot and ganks every game. Prepping yourself before a game. It doesn't matter if their jungler's sick mechanically if you know his jungle path before the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
yes.
but then I think like also in economy and somewhat in commercial, sometimes game plans like that are a little bit harder because like hand stiffs can be, the difference in relative individual skill can be a little bit bigger. But I love this take. When we read the takes, I was like, I can't wait to talk about this take because it is so true. Like proper prep matters a lot. Now I will say some teams, like the admin team in economy that changes players every week, do pose problems for this theorem, which is that some teams don't know what they're picking week to week and come in with a totally different strategy. But then I think your prep shifts more to like your individual prep, right? Like, what do we like? What are we doing? What is our game plan? What are our plans for what we want? What are power picks for us? But yeah, I love this deck. I think it's a great deck.
Yeah, Les Force, I'll give you a chance to also get some commentary in there. But Prater, what do you think about this idea that the take gets more true the higher sort of rank you are in terms of like economy up to commercial up to financial than executive? What do you think about the sort of validity of the take scaling with the elo of the league?
Oh, it's 1,000% true. Like when you play at a lower level in commercial or whatever, it solo kills happen in lane a lot more, right? Oftentimes in executive and in financial, you're not going to have solo kills happen unless something happens that is non-standard or someone isn't super expecting something. It's not going to be someone doesn't know their damage, right? So I just think, I mean, if you look at our team, Team Secret Lair, just a little bit, I mean, I am not a top laner. I am a mid lane main, and I am a basic permanent sub on my team as part of the main roster. And if I'm able to lead my team and hand stiff some people in top lane just by playing a little bit safer, and I prep my team to come up with a game plan, and I scout them to be like, oh, this team's really bad at mid game and they over push in side lanes. Let's just pick Nocturne, right? Stuff like that makes our lives a lot easier, and we don't have to be the better team to beat them. Which, I mean, I'm kind of happy that we played NLR and Monkeys early because I think they weren't necessarily ready early in the league. And I'm not trying to put us down, but we may not be the best team, but I think we have by far the best prep.
Okay. All right. I like that. Les Force, what are some of your thoughts on this take before we get Prater Zach their to-go box?
I mean, nothing that I don't think already hasn't been said. I mean, like that was also my take was like, I mean, you can even look at like last season, the reason that Lost Cause dominated executive the past 2 seasons, like sure, Hacks Defender has hands, like that's like a given, but the dude was a coach. Like he like actively coached at the highest level, and just the fact that like I feel, and I don't want to speak for the people that played against Hacks Defender, but like I imagine that being like the jungler against him was just like a pure living nightmare because you get your first rotation of camps, you get back to base level 4, and then all of a sudden you're just like you have a spotlight on you, even though there's no vision, no anything, just because like being able to know like, hey, this is what this jungler's going to want to do. He's going to these camps this time, and he's going to be like on a spotlight like that. Whereas in econ and commercial, you can have a player like Luffy who just his sheer brute force dominating game style, like yeah, there are going to be more solo kills. There are going to be a lot more kind of gank kills. I feel like where an exec, like oftentimes if there is going to be a solo kill, or there's a lot fewer of them, and so like getting that 1, 2, 3 kill kind of advantage like goes a lot farther than economy where like kills are happening every minute, every 45 seconds or what have you. So I mean, I really like the take. I think it's kind of similar to like why there's been a lot of props to like Buttermilk and Financial, because there's I mean a lot of they have a clear way. They cheesing it up. You got the prep, you've got the like the draft like again, it's not just like the draft plan, but
Mhm.
and that's something I've tried to like tell my team is like, or not my team isn't like the team I play on, but like TV Avalanche. It's it's good to focus on like what the enemy team wants to do and like, but you don't want to just fall in this trap of just like, oh, they picked this bot lane, we should pick this support to counter it. And then like you do that 3 different roles and all of a sudden you have 3 counter picks, but like your team doesn't like it doesn't do anything together.
Right.
So I think it like just having your own like identity of like
Mhm.
this is how we play the game. This is like what we want to do. This is what they want to do. Here's how we're gonna approach it. I think there's a lot of basis to the take.
Mm.
And I do agree that it is like the higher up you go, the better it is.
All right. Sounds good. Prater Zach, any final thoughts before we grab your to-go box and thank you and send you on your way?
No, I think it sums up pretty well. Yeah, thanks guys for putting this on. I really appreciate it.
Hey man, thanks for joining us and bringing on a very welcome take. So thank you very much. Your to-go box is here and ready for you, and we'll see you another time.
Have a good day.
You too. And then Les Force can go ahead and grab up the next guest here for Hot Takes Over Hot Cakes. And then we'll keep on taking these. We got about, I want to say we got about 10 more minutes.
Yeah, we got one
so-
more. We got a late take from executive that I'm gonna go ahead and grab, and then we've got one final take to wrap us up. So I will go grab them now.
Alrighty, thank you very kindly. Yeah, I mean, I think like what you're talking about is totally right, Vega, in terms of like something
Wow, say
like
that one more time.
I think what you're saying. Shut the fuck up. I think what you're saying about it being like different depending on like macro and like scouting and prep work being different depending on like how far up you go, right? Because like in lower elo, like all like you can just blame the Sejuani and then keep it moving after that, Whereas like
Yeah.
in higher elo teams, you're gonna have something a little bit different.
I think also something that gets missed a lot is that higher elo players usually have a more refined play style. They have a more way they like playing the game. They've thought more about like their exact thing. So I think that when you scout, it's almost more intentional of like this guy very much likes this. Whereas like, yeah, when you scout economy and or sometimes you'd be like, this guy just likes playing this champion, but he clears differently every game.
Yep, absolutely. And that will bring us to our penultimate guest, Registered. Welcome to Hot Takes Over Hot Cakes. We'll get you a dish served up nice and warm.
Okay.
What kind of hot take you got for us?
Hello, Summoners. Today, as a representative of the executive side, I want to talk about our jungler from Make-A-Wish, Julian, who I feel like is an underappreciated and less highlighted jungler in the entire league. For someone who's essentially a plat player playing in Diamond Plus leagues and statistically keeping up with everyone and making a lot of great plays while also still having muscular dystrophy. So I think it's something to really stand out. Especially too, I'm looking at his solo queue games. The guy is about to essentially demote to gold, and he's keeping up against like these master teams and outsmiting them. So I also think it's kind of crazy that in like jungler is such a like pivotal role, especially in the higher elos you go. They don't matter as much as lower because lanes can like decide games, but in this case, jungler makes a lot of impact. So I think it's something to consider.
I think that's like that was like my first response is to have, in a high elo league, the person who sort of represents your point source a little bit, or point sync, I don't know, be sort of on the lower end of the elo spectrum. I feel like that can be one of the most punishing roles. So the fact that, your boys having such a standout performance, I think that really says something. Les Force, you're our resident jungle expert here. Why don't you give us a little bit of commentary on what it's like to jungle up in the big leagues?
Well, and I think I have to tread carefully here, right? Because we do have a match in just about a little under 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think like at the higher up you go, like in econ and commercial, I feel like you're playing the role of firefighter. Like you are constantly, well, I don't want to say constantly because like some teams are different, but like generally, and then we kind of talked about in the last take, like top lane is going to be fighting nonstop, and so waves are going to be in a bad spot. Bot lane 2v2, they're going to be calling for their junglers to gank nonstop and play for those dragons with those big team fight ults, and so you're kind of being like pulled really far in different directions, and you end up sometimes getting stretched too thin trying to put out all the fires. Whereas like the higher up you go, kind of the more like self-reliant players can be in their lanes. They're not finding themselves getting frozen on. They're not finding themselves in a bad spot. And if they are, they kind of recognize like, hey, like I see that you're coming, you're pathing bot to top. Like before you reset, can you come up here in a couple minutes, help me out? And like all you gotta do, say that, 15 seconds, help fix a wave, save the top laner's game. So I think like a lot of jungle isn't so much about like, and that's the reason I enjoy it. Like not that there's not like hand expression, there's not like skill expression, but it's more so about like how can you handle these little blips that come up during the game, and like can you prioritize like what's the number one thing I should be doing? What's the like priority A, priority B, priority C? Like when can those like shift over the course of the game? Like who am I playing towards? It's a lot of mixing and matching, and I do think that like the ranks don't necessarily matter as much in the jungle. It really just comes down to like the knowledge of the game. Like, are you watching pro? Are you like keeping up to date on like paths and all that kind of fun stuff? So no, I mean I can definitely agree with the take.
So what I'm
Okay.
hearing is that just that jungle is just such a role that's so sort of like reflexive and reactive, a little bit, and sort of like, all right, like this is what's going on with these 3 lanes. Where can I start to make an impact?
For sure.
Gotcha. Vega, would you like to give us a little bit of commentary on this take before we give Registered a chance to respond to our thoughts, feelings, concerns, questions, critiques, and whatever else we've got going on? There's always a lot happening here. It's a busy Denny's. And then we can get them there to go box and finish out with our last take.
Yeah, I actually may have some context to this take that is surprising.
Ooh.
So I believe Julian is VeggieTales, right?
Correct.
So during the off season, Julian was trying out for Goat Milk Lifestyle, which was going to be the executive team for Milk.
Wow.
Julian's awesome, wonderful person to be around, and is really good. Like rank deceiving how well they play as a player. I can speak directly from like behind the scenes watching scrims. Like very good player. I love this take. I think especially playing a muscle dystrophy. Julian is someone who is such a joy to be around as a person. He's easy to work with. He gives great feedback. His comms are good. So hearing the take that Julian's an underappreciated jungler while being good is no surprise to me. I think that guy would crush any league he plays in. He seems like the type of player that, regardless of rank, does a very good job of playing up to the competition, right? Like if an enemy jungler's doing something, he's very good at reading that, reacting to it, being someone who is active on the map, being someone who is, figuring things out very quickly over the course of a series. So I love this take. I think it's great. Julian deserves all the credit in the world.
Awesome. Well, I'm not yet familiar with them, but I hope to be at some point. Register, what are some of your thoughts about our thoughts?
Honestly, I think they're pretty good takes. I'm glad my jungler's getting some appreciation, especially with his situation. This is one of the reasons why we made this team, because we're actually just a full group of friends that we've all known each other for like 5+ years. So Julian's like, guys, my Make-A-Wish, help me win a league. And I'm like, say less.
Wow, that's
So-
awesome.
So that's where we're at right now. And I think it's very satisfying to see him outsmite D2+ junglers in a league. And then him just screaming into the mic and us not knowing what he's saying.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the other underappreciated piece of this is that you're bringing some personality to, one, a new team, and two, a team in the executive league where we have a lot less of that personal data. So thank you so much for bringing us all of this great knowledge. And I think that makes Make-A-Wish kind of a fan favorite team. At least that's how I'm starting to feel, and I have to imagine that my co-analysts are going to agree with me on that one. Registered, thank you so much for joining us and bringing us a lovely, spectacular hot take. You can take that to go box. You can take a little packet of syrup, and we'll see you next time.
All right, peace out.
Bye. That's a good one. I liked that take.
That was a good take. That was really good. I like that a lot. Hopefully, whoever comes on next doesn't ruin us going out on a high note.
Yeah, I mean, surely it's somebody like pretty
Hey,
reasonable,
Lesmore says
normal.
Lesmore says he's screening these people. So.
He says he's screening these people, so we'll go ahead and see what we got. Lesmore, who do we have as our next guest here on Hot Takes Over Hotcakes?
Oh,
It's a banger, wrapping us up for our hot takes for the day. We've got everyone's favorite Snortaline jungler Luffy.
Okay, Luffy, go ahead, snort a line. We'll get you some pancakes to wash that down. What you got for us?
It's actually PC Luffy now.
My
but,
apologies.
It
it's
is.
okay. Yeah. Well, after hearing the other hot takes, maybe I should have brought up, maybe my team, Naughty Dogs, but I didn't think of that. But so bark.
Bark, bark.
But there's been a lot of slander lately for LBLCS.
Ooh.
There's like a lot of swearing in the
Whoa.
casts, and my hot take is that it's actually good content.
I don't think we've ever fucking swore on this show, have we?
Yeah,
I
a
don't
little bit
swear
lately.
ever.
I think it's just a chance, honestly. But
It's true.
We budget
Nice.
ourselves 10, and he always uses 9 of them.
Doesn't leave a lot.
Doesn't right? Kind of a ball hog,
no, basically it's just I've been in this for like 3 years, and I've met like so many people through it. Flown to someone's house cross country for a week, and then had to play finals there. I'm gonna blame it on his computer setup, the
True.
TVA.
True.
But it was just they were having like a Friendsgiving with people, and like
Mhm.
just awesome. I've been trying to get like more. Like I have friends that don't even play League that watch the streams because they just like listening to whatever insanity is going on. Like the 10 minutes of I think talking about Transformers or something.
Yeah,
what was it?
fuck it,
On
we've
our
all-
pause.
Metabots. Oh my gosh, dude.
Oh,
Me and
Metabots.
Lachance-
that was it.
Metabots.
Me and Lachance just need to have a podcast where we can talk about all the early 90s cartoons that we like.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I think this is a great take, right? Like the LBLCS, I
Mhm.
think, and I totally agree with you. Like I have sent like the stream link to some like friends of mine who have no understanding of League of Legends at all, and they're like so thoroughly entertained. So I think this is maybe a big like props to our stream team, of which Vega and Less Force are also a part. Sometimes I get on there and cause a little bit of mayhem as well. But just to make a competitive amateur League of Legends game entertaining for somebody that doesn't know anything about League of Legends, doesn't know anything about maybe 9 out of the 10 people that are playing, and doesn't really know anything about the low budget LCS as a whole, to make it entertaining for that group of people, that really says a whole lot. So yeah, I completely agree with this take.
Yeah, my dad doesn't even play League. He doesn't know what it is. So I sent him the link and said we're playing Tuesday night. And then Monday night he texted me. He was like, "Hey, you played really well." I was like, "That wasn't me, Dad. Like that was somebody else." But he watched the whole thing, and then when he watched our series, I know he finished it because he was like, "I'm watching Metabots now."
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Less Force, any thoughts on this take before we close out our show for the day?
Yeah, this is where I'm gonna this means Ward and say how bad we are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta play devil's advocate here.
No, I mean it's yeah, I mean obviously, maybe some potty mouth streamers aside, not gonna throw any rats under the bus or anything. No, I mean we it's a good group. There's a reason that the streams happen as often as they do. A lot of hard work behind the scenes, LaChance and Buggle and Papoba making it happen. And yeah, hopefully glad that Luffy is able to echo that those efforts aren't, falling on deaf ears. Got a good thing going. Booth, another great thing going, and very much a little bit of a sentimental take to wrap us off here for the day.
Yeah, can't go wrong with a little sentimentality to close out the show. So Luffy, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you bringing your take on. You can get a to-go box, and maybe we'll slip a couple extra syrup packets in there for you.
Yeah, I'll order to go for my kids. You'll foot the bill.
Oh
sure.
yeah, no, yeah. Well, we'll bill it to the LBLCS.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry about
Love you all. Thank you.
it. Okay, love you too. Bye bye. Well, ladies, gentlemen, and anything and everything in between, thank you guys so much for joining us here on this lovely episode 5 of The Booth, reviewing our week 4. Keep paying attention. We've got a couple of matches tonight. Maybe there will be a red zone about it. Neither Less Force nor I will be able to be a part of it, except for being on the big screen, I guess. Yeah, I hope you guys stay safe and have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Vega, any final thoughts before we close out?
Yeah, first of all, I want to publicly apologize to Jack. I mistakenly invited him to a flex game
That was fucked up, dude.
and then had to tell him to get out of the lobby because somebody was coming to take that spot.
I joined. I was like, wow, I'm player number 5. He must have really wanted me to fill out the roster. I'm so excited. I've never played with Ojai Vega before. Look at all these fun people. I bet he's inviting me to be friends with them. And then all of a sudden it's sorry, didn't mean you. It's like it's high school all over again.
I would be happy to do a booth flex night if we could find a
Ooh.
5th person. I think that would be very fun. But no, I really want to give a shout out to my other members on the booth. Last year our scheduling was all over the place, and like getting episodes out was a little bit of a struggle at times. And shout out to Jack and everybody for this year just putting it together. We have made it work. We've had 1 week off since the season started, and we have done episodes every week since then.
Yep.
With varied content, which I am really proud of. All the hard work that goes on behind the scenes to make this work.
Yeah, it's just so much fun. I just really enjoy it. And being able to be a part of this with you guys is super exciting.
Yeah, and obviously shout out to Less Force this week. Sent the stuff out about the questions, organized it, getting the people in, making sure we didn't have any psychos on the air.
Yep.
Just great
Besides
job,
Luffy.
Less Force.
Yeah, but like, but we're familiar with his psychotic behavior.
Yeah,
so
we're
Yeah.
We're prepped for it. We're prepped for it.
He's a beloved psychotic. Absolutely. Less Force is the MVP of today's episode. So if you enjoyed the hot takes over hot takes segment, please send Less Force a little bit of love there. And Less Force, as the man of the hour, would you like to say a few words before we finish out?
Luffy just realizing what was said about him. Hopefully the segment was a success. Obviously love hearing these beautiful members' voices, but the league is fueled by the community, and so it's a good opportunity to let some of you guys come on and again, the narratives we talk about kind of helps when the community is able to pump them up a little bit. So now we've got some eyes maybe on 2%. We've got, again, Make-A-Wish, new team and executive. We've got some context there. So maybe if we do this again later on in the season, feel free to submit some takes, and we will hopefully have a spot at the booth for you. And once again, hopefully just have to reiterate, hopefully Val's head gets put back on in the near future. No guarantees, but just wanted to emphasize our hopes for that.
Yep, and to add a piece of continuity here, Hell 3 is Georgia, which nobody got. So a lot of good guesses out there. We got Hells 1, 2, and 4, and Ohio, which is just Ohio, which is much worse than Hell. But Hell 3 is indeed Georgia. Oh, Luffy said Georgia right away. Well, I don't believe you.
What's Hell 2?
Wait, also you knew because you're in the Panther Den.
Yeah.
I don't hear it. I don't want to hear it. And we also named New
I'm in the
York.
Panther Den.
No, you're not.
I just have it muted.
No, you don't. You're not in that channel.
Yeah, I am.
Oh wait,
Go look right now.
Oh shit, I think you are actually. I think I put you there too. God damn it. All right. All right, everybody.
I didn't read it there,
Thank you guys so much for joining us on this lovely episode number 5 of The Booth. Titanic Kobold Selmer says, wait, where am I? You are at a Denny's. The Denny's in Vermont. And if you subscribe, then you can get led in the back by our buddy Todd, and we can give you a couple of pancakes. Maybe next segment of Hot Takes Over Hot Cakes, you'll be willing to join us and slip a little bit of syrup and watch that butter melt just right. All of you guys, thank you so much. I want to reiterate Less Force's comments. The community is exactly what makes this so freaking exciting. And yep, the VOD will be uploaded basically like as soon as I can upload it, it'll get uploaded. I have not missed an upload yet this season. So big ups to me on that one, just to toot my own horn a little bit here. But yeah, everybody, thank you again. And it takes 2 to tango.
Peace.